In the deserts of the Middle East, a silent alliance has been reborn, one that could reshape the balance of power across Asia. Pakistan and Saudi Arabia have just signed a defense pact that echoes the very language of NATO. An attack on one will be treated as an attack on both. But beneath those words lies something far bigger, the possibility of an Islamic NATO, a coalition that could change the course of history. And for India, this is not just another diplomatic headline. It's a looming strategic nightmare. Back in the late 20th century, when the world was standing on the edge of nuclear uncertainty, one event changed the entire security landscape of South Asia. It was 1998. Pakistan had just carried out its nuclear tests in response to India's Pokhran II. Overnight, Islamabad found itself isolated. Global sanctions hit hard, its economy trembled, and fuel shortages threatened daily life. But in that critical moment, one nation silently stepped in to keep Pakistan's survival intact: Saudi Arabia. Riyadh shipped oil worth billions, and not just at a discount, completely free. That single gesture wasn't charity. It was a calculated investment in a relationship that would become one of the most enduring and strategic bonds in the Muslim world. For decades, Saudi Arabia has viewed Pakistan as more than just a friend. It has seen Pakistan as its reliable military backbone, a partner capable of providing not just manpower, but also nuclear credibility if push ever came to shove. This relationship was never merely about economics or religion, it was about survival and security. While Riyadh controlled vast wealth and influence in the Islamic world, it lacked one thing: nuclear capability. Pakistan, on the other hand, had the bomb, but was struggling with financial crises and international isolation. Together, the two nations formed a quiet, almost unspoken pact: money for protection, oil for survival, and loyalty for security. The cooperation wasn't limited to deals behind closed doors. For years, Pakistani military personnel have been stationed in Saudi Arabia, training local forces, providing defense expertise, and even guarding the kingdom during times of regional instability. From the 1980s to the Gulf War, Pakistani boots on Saudi soil have been a visible reminder of this defense partnership. Saudi Arabia didn't just trust Pakistan, it relied on it. When regional tensions with Iran rose, when American credibility began to waver, and when threats from extremist groups loomed, Riyadh always knew Islamabad had its back. This trust was deeply rooted in more than just strategy. It was grounded in cultural and religious ties. Saudi Arabia is home to the two holiest sites in Islam, and Pakistan, being the second largest Muslim country by population, has always felt a spiritual closeness with the kingdom. But geopolitics has no room for just sentiment. This was realpolitik at its finest, a wealthy oil giant joining hands with a nuclear-armed military power to create a silent but formidable axis. Looking back, that lifeline in 1998 wasn't just about saving Pakistan from collapse, it was about setting the stage for something far bigger. It showed that when pushed to the wall, Saudi Arabia would invest heavily in Pakistan's survival because it knew sooner or later it might need Pakistan to guarantee its own. And today, as both countries elevate their partnership into a formal defense pact, the roots of this alliance trace directly back to those defining moments when Saudi Arabia became Pakistan's secret guardian, and Pakistan, in turn, became Saudi Arabia's ultimate insurance policy. What makes this new defense pact so striking is not just the handshake between two old allies, but the boldness of what it actually says. At its core lies a clause that sounds eerily familiar to anyone who has studied NATO. An attack on one will be treated as an attack on both. Simple words, but in the world of geopolitics, they carry enormous weight. It means that Pakistan, with its massive standing army and its nuclear arsenal, is now formally bound to Saudi Arabia's security. And on the flip side, Riyadh, with its bottomless wealth and oil leverage, is tied directly to Pakistan's future battles. This isn't a casual agreement. It's a military insurance policy signed in full view of the world. Think about the implications. For decades, Pakistan's role in Saudi security was unofficial, discreet, sometimes even denied. Pakistani troops trained Saudi forces quietly. Intelligence was shared in back channels. Everyone knew it existed, but it was never inked into a treaty. Now the veil has been lifted. By putting it on paper, both nations are sending a message, not just to their people, but to their rivals. and especially to their neighbors. To Iran, it says, the Saudi kingdom is no longer standing alone. To India, it says, Pakistan's strategic depth just got deeper, and it extends all the way into the heart of the Gulf. What makes this pact even more fascinating is the speculation it raises about nuclear protection. For years, analysts in Washington, New Delhi, and Tel Aviv have whispered about a secret understanding. If Saudi Arabia ever needed a nuclear shield, Pakistan would be the provider. Nothing was ever confirmed, nothing was ever denied. But now, with this pact in place, the question becomes more urgent. Does this formal defense alliance mean that Riyadh can now rely on Islamabad's nuclear umbrella? If yes, the Middle East may have just shifted into an entirely new era of deterrence. Beyond the nuclear angle, the agreement also opens the door for joint military exercises, shared defense technology, and closer coordination in regional conflicts. Saudi money has the power to fuel Pakistan's defense industry, while Pakistan's battle-hardened army brings expertise that Riyadh desperately needs. The two complement each other perfectly, one rich in resources, the other rich in experience. And when such a combination becomes official, it transforms the balance of power across the region. For ordinary citizens, it might look like just another international headline, but in the corridors of power, this pact is being read as a blueprint for a future alliance structure. Because when you echo NATO's language, you're not just signing a bilateral agreement. You're hinting at something larger, something collective, something that could pull other Muslim-majority nations into the fold. And that's what makes it truly historic. This is no longer about quiet support or backroom deals. This is about declaring to the world that Pakistan and Saudi Arabia are ready to stand shoulder to shoulder, come what may. For India, this new pact between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan isn't just another headline. It's a wake-up call. On the surface, New Delhi and Riyadh have always enjoyed warm ties. India is one of the biggest buyers of Saudi oil. Trade runs into tens of billions, and nearly 2.5 million Indian workers live and work in the kingdom, sending precious remittances back home. For decades, that economic bridge has been a stabilizer, keeping relations cordial despite Saudi Arabia's historic closeness with Pakistan. But now, with this defense alliance, the balance is starting to tilt, and not in India's favor. The problem begins with perception. When Saudi Arabia signs a pact that says an attack on Pakistan is an attack on Saudi Arabia, it creates an immediate strategic dilemma for India. New Delhi has long viewed Pakistan as a primary security threat, particularly over terrorism and the Kashmir dispute. But what happens if tensions flare and India is drawn into another conflict with Pakistan? Suddenly, Saudi Arabia is no longer a neutral oil supplier in the background. It is a declared ally of Islamabad. Even if Riyadh never sends troops or weapons against India, the symbolism of that commitment alone weakens India's diplomatic position. The timing makes matters worse. Just as this deal was announced, Washington pulled the plug on India's special waiver for the Chabahar port project in Iran. That port was supposed to be India's gateway to Afghanistan and Central Asia, bypassing Pakistan altogether. Without it, India's access to the region is severely restricted. In other words, as Pakistan cements its influence with the Gulf, India is watching its carefully laid plans collapse in Iran. Two setbacks in the same neighborhood at the same time. There is also the human angle. Millions of Indian workers in Saudi Arabia depend on stable ties between the two countries. Their remittances are a lifeline for families back home. But if Riyadh increasingly leans toward Pakistan, New Delhi will have less leverage to protect its diaspora, less room to negotiate labor rights, and less influence in the kingdom's internal policy-making. The workers may not be at risk today, but geopolitics has a way of turning ordinary lives into bargaining chips when nations collide. At a broader level, this pact chips away at India's image as a rising power with global reach. Prime Minister Modi has invested heavily in building strong relationships across the Middle East, from hugging Gulf leaders on camera to signing energy deals worth billions. Yet despite the photo ops and branding, the hard reality is clear. Saudi Arabia still sees Pakistan as its ultimate military partner. For India, that's more than just a diplomatic snub. It's a reminder that power in international politics is built on defense commitments, not just economic trade or friendly summits. The message to New Delhi is unmistakable. Pakistan may be struggling economically, but strategically it has just scored a massive win. With Riyadh openly backing Islamabad, India risks being cornered in a region where it desperately wants to expand influence. And the worst part? It may not have many cards left to play. When you look closely at this pact, it feels less like a one-off agreement and more like the foundation of something much larger. The language, the symbolism, and the timing all point toward a bigger vision, a potential Islamic NATO. Imagine a security bloc where Muslim-majority nations pool their military strength under one umbrella, with Pakistan as the backbone and Saudi Arabia as the financier. For years, this idea was dismissed as speculation, but now, with Riyadh and Islamabad putting their partnership on paper, it suddenly feels closer to reality. The Middle East today is not the Middle East of the past. The United States, once the unquestioned security guarantor, is no longer seen as reliable. Washington's chaotic withdrawals, shifting policies, and inconsistent alliances have left many Gulf capitals questioning whether America will still protect them when the next crisis erupts. Into that vacuum steps Pakistan, offering not just soldiers and training, but the credibility of being the only Muslim-majority nation with nuclear weapons. For Saudi Arabia, that's not just attractive, it's priceless. But Saudi Arabia and Pakistan are not alone. Look at Turkey, flexing its muscles from the Mediterranean to Central Asia. Look at Qatar, investing heavily in defense diplomacy. Look at the smaller Gulf states, always worried about Iran's reach. If this pact succeeds, it could become the magnet that pulls other Islamic countries into a collective defense framework. An attack on one, an attack on all. This is the NATO formula, and once you borrow that formula, the door is wide open for expansion. For India, this possibility is chilling. An Islamic NATO would mean that its primary rival, Pakistan, is no longer standing alone. It could have the political cover, financial backing, and potentially the military support of a coalition stretching across the Muslim world. Even if such an alliance remains symbolic, its psychological impact on regional power equations would be enormous. Suddenly, every Indian calculation in the Middle East would have to factor in not just Riyadh or Islamabad separately, but the weight of a united bloc. The irony is that while India has been busy branding its foreign policy as bold and global, Pakistan has quietly built leverage where it matters most, in security. And Saudi Arabia, by formalizing this deal, has sent a clear message. When it comes to military defense, New Delhi is a partner in trade. But Islamabad is a partner in survival. So the real question is not whether this pact changes the game today, but whether it is the seed of a new order tomorrow. Are we watching the birth of an Islamic NATO, or is this just a marriage of convenience? One thing is certain, the Middle East is realigning. And India is on the sidelines at a time when the stakes could not be higher. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more deep dive analysis, and share this video so more people can understand how fast the geopolitical chessboard is changing. The Saudi-Pakistan Pact is more than ink on paper. It's a signal, a warning, and perhaps the first chapter of a much larger story. If this truly is the birth of an Islamic NATO, then the strategic map of Asia will never look the same again. For India, the challenge is no longer just about borders. It's about being outflanked in the very heart of the Muslim world. The question now is simple. Will New Delhi adapt, or will it be left behind as history turns a new page? If this analysis gave you a new perspective, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more hard-hitting breakdowns, and share it so more people can see how fast the world is changing.